Hello everyone, I'm back again for another update. Today is Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. I'm at a very interesting spot here on the Appalachian Trail, short spur trail, called the Audie Leon Murphy Monument. This is the site of a plane crash back in 1971, happened May 28th, and the person died very close to this spot. He apparently was the most decorated veteran of World War II, and he died here when his plane crashed. And this is a monument reflecting that. And this is very close to the site where it actually happened. It's a little spur trail off the Appalachian Trail that will take you here. This is a spur trail. And I'm currently hiking another segment between Virginia 620 and Virginia 621. There's a 7.5 mile section I'm covering today southbound. And there is no wreckage from the crash anymore here. It's just a monument. Top of a high ridge line. The plane apparently didn't clear the ridge. So this is a short spur trail. There's even appears to be a little campsite here. And this is a junction with the Appalachian Trail itself right here. And there's the AT looking northbound. Here's the sign telling you which way to the monument. And here's a person that wants to camp here. Probably can even do that. A little campsite here. And there's the spur trail to the monument. And I'm going to continue southbound on the Appalachian Trail. Today is a beautiful day, no humidity, getting toward early fall. Perfect weather for hiking, temperature in the 70s, sunshine. And I'm following the top of Brush Mountain. It is considered a wilderness area by the feds. And there's even a little bit of a pond off to the left there. A little tiny pond. What I'm going to talk about today is more on this tropical weather season. We have another manufactured storm out in the Atlantic. Begins with an N. I forgot the exact name. The last one that hit Atlantic Canada, eastern Maine, was post-tropical by the time it made landfall on the Maine-New Brunswick border. All these storms were manufactured. It was pretty clear. They managed with that storm to get it over the threshold when it got north of the Leeward Islands in the Atlantic. But interestingly enough, Once it got to the same place that Franklin was a couple of weeks ago, it kind of sputtered for a while. They were shooting energy in it like no tomorrow, and it was sputtering. They were struggling to keep that thing going for a while. Reason being partly because that last storm, Franklin, was there a couple of weeks ago, and as I've said in my videos, these storms suck a tremendous amount of heat out of that water. To have an active hurricane season, you have got to have a deep layer of warm water to feed off of. Otherwise, if the water layer is very shallow and it's marginal, yeah, they managed to get Franklin going for a while there, a couple days, but now this other storm moved over the same area of water and it was sputtering. They had a very hard time for a while keeping that storm going. Once it entered the area where Franklin was a couple of weeks ago. And that proves my theory that these storms, well, it's not a theory, it's a fact, these storms suck a tremendous amount of heat out of that water and release it into the atmosphere through the outflow. They were feeding so much energy into that storm that the outflow reached all the way across the Atlantic, and actually the eddy from it spawned another disturbance. All the way across the Atlantic, south and west of the Azores, it spawned another disturbance that was created mainly by the outflow from this excessive outflow, artificial outflow. Dominated the whole Atlantic. That it appears to me that they're getting even more intense with this energy. Like they're increasing the intensity of it to where the outflow could cover 1,000 miles or more from the tinkering that they're doing. To the point, in a normal season, you got a high pressure, covers the Atlantic, that modulates these systems. It usually extends from Bermuda to the Azores. Across the Atlantic is covered. And usually storms, hurricanes or disturbances don't come to this area. They go around it. But this year, that area of high pressure was so weak that storms were penetrating it left and right. We had no continuity in the Atlantic this year. For example, several weeks ago, we had that storm that came up from Florida from the southwest. Very unusual path for August. It's more like an October track for something to come at Florida from that direction. It usually happens in October. It doesn't usually happen in August. If you got a storm over the northwestern Caribbean, it usually will head for Texas at the end of August. It will not track, again, because of the positioning of that high pressure area that steers it usually toward Texas this time of year. But because that high was so weak and so much further east of where it usually is, this system actually took a track that's more typical for October. So I found very interesting. As a result, flamingos were carried up far north of Virginia. Of course, they were trying to say, hint that it might be climate change. No, it had nothing to do with climate change. It had to do with the track of that system. Taking an unusual track. Most storms that hit South Carolina in late August come in off the Atlantic. They don't come up from Florida or the Gulf. But again, the theme of this season is pretty much every system's been manufactured. The ones that have managed to become hurricanes, they have managed to get over the threshold. Maybe the system hit a patch of warmer water on the Gulf Stream, had just enough warm water on the surface to feed one system, perhaps. Plus, we're in the max of solar cycle 24 right now, or 25. And that might have put a little extra heat in that water as well, just enough to crank out a few systems. But the season is winding down. Other than that one storm in the middle of the Atlantic, there's not much else going on. In the Pacific, there's not much else either. Still near the peak of the season. Usually El Nino, if there really is one, the Pacific is usually quite active. We don't see anything going on there right now. And yeah, they're up to the letter N already. But again, as I said in my last video, they are naming every little cloud mass that develops, they're sticking a name on. They do not want to portray that there's been an actual decline in tropical weather systems. It goes against the narrative, as I've been saying. Solar cycle 25, we appear to have reached the peak of it. As the sunspot numbers have begun to come back down a little bit to about 100 now. So again, we're looking at something maybe a bit stronger than 24 was the last cycle, but not much stronger. And what that implies is cooling is likely to continue. Here's a bench here. I believe that you can drive to within a half mile of the monument. There is a road that actually, well, I think it's a four-wheel drive road though, that will take you up to within a half mile of that monument. My girlfriend is going to meet me on Route 621. She's about another 4 more miles, all mostly downhill in that direction. And thus I will have completed another segment of the Appalachian Trail. I have completed the entire trail now from the Route 311 junction to Route 621. I don't remember how many miles it is, 30 miles, maybe 35. And then for the winter coming up, we're already seeing a pattern starting to develop. Whether it will stick into the winter or not remains to be seen. Of walking over eastern Canada, and I remember as a teenager in the fall we had that pattern very frequently in the preceding the winter of 77-78, which was a legendary winter, and it was also an El Nino that winter. It was legendary on the East Coast for snowstorms. So it remains to be seen if that pattern's going to set in or not. And a pattern of frequent coastal systems. We're going to have one this weekend, one possibly next week. Of storms coming up the East Coast, which in the winter time favor snow for much of the East. We will have to see how that pattern develops, because last year we had a very mild season. So this is a marker. The trail turns up in this direction, as it's going to probably, and that probably goes to that parking area I was talking about. There's even a bench here, so it's designed for people that park up there and want to go to the monument. The Appalachian Trail itself goes in this direction, comes down off this ridge, and as you can see in the distance, there's another ridge line. It goes down into this valley. Here, where Route 621 runs, there is a parking area down there where I'm going to be meeting up with my girlfriend in a little bit. And then we're going to go home. She did have an appointment today in Roanoke. And what I've been doing lately is just hiking sections of the trail. She goes on her appointment and picks me up. So this is called the First Mountain East Wilderness, Jefferson National Forest, that this trail traverses through here. So this is going to be it for my video. As I start down off this ridge line, come down into this valley. I hope you found this video enjoyable. Thank you.